Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me. My name is Carlos. Today I will be presenting this week's back routine, back session, and the rationale for exercise selection. Do you just go through your routine without any particular um, idea of how to choose your exercises, or you're supposed to do 4 or 5 exercises and you do them in whichever order just happens to be available, the machine happens to be available, or whatnot? Do you give exercise selection any consideration? I will put forth my thoughts on exercise selection and why I believe it is very important for maximum development. Now, what is it that we're trying to achieve when we're in the gym, when we're working out, when we're trying to build muscle? We're trying to achieve intensity, correct? Whatever you're doing with volume or frequency, you're still trying to train as hard as possible. So exercise selection can either limit or enhance the amount of intensity you put out in the total output of your workout. In this sense, if you leave the potential for the greatest amount of output for the end when you are fatigued, your overall output will be limited by your fatigue. And so it's probably smart to do your hardest, heaviest compound lift first. Because when you're tired at the end of, an hour and 15 minutes or an hour and a half of lifting, you may not want to go and do your deadlifts. I'm just saying, it's happened before. I see this happening, and most probably you will not either do them, or if you do them, you will not be able to perform with, all-out intensity. There is a time and a place for leaving your heaviest compound move for last. But when you want to build as much intensity, the highest amount of output, the greatest workout possible as far as total output goes, you want to do the heavy hitters first. But there is a way of interspersing isolation into the workout so you can continue to build throughout the workout. Because if you only do heavy compounds and you leave your isolations only for last, then that will also, in my opinion, hamper the total productivity. So in today's workout, we started with the rack pull. I occasionally do deadlifts, like 3, 4, maybe 5 times a year. I'm not really too gung-ho at this stage of doing, heavy deadlifts. The reward to recuperation, it takes a lot to recuperate from them, and they don't give me the hypertrophy benefits that I could get from a variant such as either the RDL, stiff leg, or even better, the rack pull. So today was the rack pull. Rack pulls for me are easy to do. I can do many reps with them with high weight, and so this is what I choose to start out with. And so we built up the pyramid from 1 to 2 to 3 and topped out at 4 plates. With 4 plates, did 2 sets, one with 5 reps, the other set with 6 reps, and then we bring it down for an AMRAP. Now this AMRAP, which means as many reps as possible, I limited it today. I didn't want to go to utter complete failure because I hadn't done these rack pulls in many months. And so it's not, AMRAPs and top sets and everything, that's great to do once you're into a routine with a particular exercise and you're really pushing it. But to restart a particular exercise, you probably want to leave a few reps in reserve, maybe, just saying. So today I got 12 reps with a 300 pound, with a 315. And then from there, did 2 isolation exercises. Went to the cable low row, and that particular exercise, you can put a lot of weight on the low row cable. I remember back in the 90s seeing an article about some guy competing in Philadelphia. He put 400 or 500 pounds on the cable. The cable snapped and he smashed his nose in. It was really bad. But this guy was he was like the Hulk. He was super jacked up, roided out and everything, and just grabbed onto that thing. Yeah, boom, snapped the cable. And the thing, it smashed into his face and everything. So, obviously there is a possibility of really doing heavy overload on the low row. But for today's purposes, the idea was complete isolation of the upper back and the lower back, the entire, musculature of the lat, rhomboids and all of that. So what do I do with the low row? After the heavy rack pull, you've done this heavy compound. And a note on the compound move on the rack pull, you really want to focus on the mind muscle with the proper contraction at the terminal stage. When you're at the top, when you're completely vertical, you want to hyperextend a little bit and crunch your back. Man, even as I do this now, a couple of days after doing these exercises, my back is still just gnarled up. And you know, with 400 pounds, when you do these contractions and you do them really conscientiously, you know, they're gonna work. It's a highly effective exercise. You do 400 or 500 pounds consistently, your back's gonna grow, man. I mean, it's just like, how can it? Unless you're not eating, you know. But if you're eating enough protein, you're getting, you know, you're a proper bodybuilder with a proper lifestyle, and you know, you're in tune with your diet and everything. If you stay on point with these heavy compound back exercises, your back's gonna start showing some pretty gnarly development. That's just, there's no way around it. So anyways, getting back to the low row, after this heavy compound, I don't like to lean all the way into the low row. I like to let the scapula go forward, but not the torso. There is a difference. You don't want to do this. It's not like a hyperextension or a reverse hyperextension. Just let the scapula go. Just let your shoulder girdle go. Man, even as I do that, I can feel all the muscles in the back still sore from 3 days ago. So that's what we do there. Pyramid from 120, 160, 180, 210, and then brought it back down to 120, which is a very light weight, but it's enough to pose with. I mean, I've heard stories of people actually tearing muscles just by posing. That's how hard you can pose. I mean, you can really crunch your muscles really hard without any weight. So the weight in a certain context, in certain situations, is irrelevant. Now, I'm a proponent of heavy weight. It's all about the performance, and you're not going to convince me that you're going to build the ultimate physique with light weights, because that's just not true. If that was true, all the top bodybuilders who compete and try to make money at it, even though they are so advanced, would not try to lift heavier weights in each and every off-season. Why? Because the heavier the weight, the more muscle they're going to build. But all these meta studies, these PubMeds, everything that they're publishing out there, hypertrophy is developed with a certain rep range. You do not need heavy weight. And you know, while in the meanwhile, the champs are going, bullshit. You know, leave that to the masses. Keep them small. You don't want them to learn. You always have to strive to lift heavier weight if, there's a big if you want to get better. Okay? If you want to spin your wheels after 3 years of making gains, and now you're in a comfort zone, and you just want to cruise forever, that's fine. You're satisfied with what you have. But know the truth. The truth is, if you want to continue to build mass and really hard, dense musculature, you will have to increase your weights. The weights, not the crimping, not the contraction, not the technique, the weights over time. So, getting back to the low row. Very isolation-minded exercise. Really, you know, that is a particular crimp and crunch, not a mass builder, but on top of the compound, you're building in a lot of intensity and overall output. From there, we go to an even more isolation exercise, which is the lat pull-downs with the separate cables. Why the separate cables? Because you can do these in tandem, and then once you reach a certain point, you can bring it down one side at a time, and then the other, and then the other, and then the other, and then you can go beyond failure, because once you fail on one side, you're all tired out. You give it a rest for a few seconds, you do the other arm, then you do the other arm, and your total work volume will be superior. From there, we go into a transition, like a semi-isolation, harder, heavier exercise, which is the one-arm dumbbell row. Now, in my particular gym, max is 105 pounds. For me, it's very light, so I'm doing reps. And I use this as a transition, just to not lose the feel of doing those dumbbells. I can do them with very heavy weights. I have done 200-pound dumbbells. You know, a yank and pull with sloppy form, but for 4 reps, you know, I can do 150s, with a, decently. 105 is what I've got to work with. So I don't really spend too much time there. Just did a set on each side and then went to my final exercise, which in my opinion, and for me subjectively, is like the hardest exercise of them all, is the free body pull-up. Because of my particular body structure and weight, I find that pulling myself up is pretty hard. When I'm new at it, I haven't done it for a while, I can only get like 4 reps, maybe 5. If I train for a month and a half, I can build it up to 8 to 10. But it's very challenging for me. So I left it for the end, very last, at the end of the routine. And I found that as I did my first rep, second rep, I did my 4 reps, which is like whoop-de-doo, right? Well, for me, it was a big whoop-de-doo. I found that each and every rep was absolutely engaging every muscle in the back. I hear people, I don't feel my lats. When I do these lat exercises, I just don't feel my back. It's like my biceps, my biceps tendon hurts, like I do my shoulder. I'm doing everything but lats. As I'm doing this pull-up, after doing the rack pull, the low row, the tandem cables, the one-arm dumbbell, when I go to my pull-up, it's my back that's pulling. It's like I felt every single muscle in the back just go, it was really fun. And all I did was one set, and that was it. I'll be building into this progression in the following weeks, God willing. But for me, okay, peak output is very important, but it's not like the most important thing at this stage. As far as, I'm not trying to build PRs with weight because I am on a cut. So what is it that we're trying to do in a lower calorie, in a calorie deficit state? You want to preserve your muscle. You're losing body fat. This is the goal of this period of time, this periodization. I'm trying to prep. I'm trying to get in shape. I want to go below 10% body fat. The best I've ever achieved was 10.3 last year. And I feel I can do it better this time. Like, you always learn more as time goes on. You get more experienced at this. I'm keeping an Excel sheet where I average all my weight and all my data out every 15 days. And every 15 days, I drop 3.2, 3.3 pounds. So it's a little under 7 pounds a month. If you go over that, you can lose muscle. You can lose muscle because you're not eating enough. The smaller the calorie restriction, the better your chances are of maintaining and even gaining a little bit of muscle. If you go too hard, if your attrition is so hard on the food, first of all, you're not going to be able to train as hard. If you're in a 1,000 calorie deficit, just going kamikaze trying to drop weight, you will not be doing 400-pound rack pulls. You're not going to be really pushing it that hard in the gym. You'll be going through the motions. That's not what you want. That's not what you want. You want to train like a bodybuilder. You want to train like you're lifting, like you're a strongman or something. Like you got some power, like you got muscle. Because this is a muscle game. It's not like a bikini contest for men. You want to maintain as much muscle as possible. And that's not really, and people are misled by top pro bodybuilding diets when they show them in their very last weeks when they're on 20 units of growth hormone. I mean, at least 6 or 8. They're on every known anabolic on earth, all the major oral steroids. They're on halotestin, Anadrol, Anavar, Winstrol, on top of 4 or 5 injectables. And they're doing these other compounds, everything trying to retain muscle mass while eating 2,000 calories. And some of these anabolics are so harsh and so strong, they'll make you train hard in the gym, even though you don't have that much energy. And that's what they show. And then a normal guy, normal people like us who aren't doing those extremes, they try to pull that extreme diet off, and, it's just a lose-lose. We can't do that and expect to retain muscle. You're just going to fade. You're just going to go away. So, and lose mass, lose size, lose energy. It's just not a good situation. Now, I'm talking to people who are trying to keep it normal, within a normal range. If you are competing for a professional show, you probably know what to do. You don't need me to say anything. You probably have a coach who's guiding you. And, note on that, if he's telling you to do these extreme things, do some research for you. I wouldn't put my life in somebody's hands. I talk to people trainers who compete. These guys train other people and they compete. And they're being trained by someone else. And the trainer has them on some compounds that I think are absolutely ridiculous. Why would you be on 2 anti-estrogen drugs in your off season when you're in a hypercaloric state? When the chance of building up lipids in your bloodstream and getting high cholesterol and screwing up your heart and everything is the highest, and you don't need to look hard, and you're doing the anti-estrogen, the blocker, the inhibitor, all these things, it's just beyond me. And I kind of ask, why? And so, well, I don't ask. It's just my trainer. He sends me a sheet on my WhatsApp, told me what to eat, what to train, and what drugs to take. And I don't question it. I couldn't do that. No, I couldn't do that. No way. No, I question why are you putting me on these No, I want to live. I think I'll sacrifice a little bit of hardness on the off season so I can, maintain my lipid profile in a normal state and leave that for what is absolutely, necessary at the end. But anyways, I drifted a little bit off course. Getting back to the diet, just had a sip of coffee there. I put the thing on pause and try to remember what the hell I was talking about. So, yeah, on the diet, you're trying to maintain as much muscle as you can. I'm doing this very slow. Now, the other thing about going slow, instead of dropping 500, I can drop 500 calories, and I see a lot of these people on, the comments and blogs and opining, say, oh, the best way to drop fat, 5 to 700, and that, I go back to the old school guys, even Lee Haney, 8-time Mr. Olympia, I was blown away by the amount of minutia knowledge he has on diet. The micro, macro numbers, everything. He was writing everything down, and you wouldn't think that about Lee Haney, but yeah, he was absolutely in tune. He said, man, for me to drop 15 pounds of body fat, I took 7 months. I could drop that in 2 months. Most people would drop that in 2 months trying to get into a prep. He would take 7 months. Why? To drop slowly. Just think about it. This concept about main gaining, I don't believe it. I'm not really into that. I do believe that if you want to get super strong and big and everything, you do have to push some food. But not main gaining, but losing slowly, dropping a 0.25% body fat a month if you are pretty close, maybe 0.5%, not a month, a week. That's optimal. But what happens? It's harder to do. It takes a lot more discipline. You have to be on point. You basically cannot cheat, ever. You have to be on point with your calories. Your deficit has to be 200 calories a day. Because if you eat just a little bit more and you blow your deficit, you've skewed your week. You've blown it. This thing has to be on point for it to work. And it has to be a real legitimate deficit. In other words, metabolic adaptation, and then you reach homeostasis and status quo again. No. You keep the deficit happening very slightly all the way down, and you will preserve all your muscle. You may even build some if you are performing in the gym. If your bench press is going up, your dumbbells are going up, your rack, your Smith squat, all these things are going up, and you're in that deficit, you're training hard, but you have energy, bro. You have energy because you're still eating. You're not eating 2,000 calories. Your deficit is 2,700 calories. That's a lot of food. That is a considerable amount of food. That's more than most people eat in the world, right? But you're a bodybuilder, you're trying to lose fat, so you're eating a lot of protein, you cut the fats, you limit the carbs, and a lot of meats, a lot of chicken, stuff like that, a lot of protein. And so you keep this deficit minimum, and that takes discipline, but if you're dialed in, you can do that. You can do that. For me, it's all about the performance. You want to maintain peak output in the gym. So let's review. Exercise selection is meant to enhance your output for the workout. Structure your selection so that you can do more work. Do your isolations as a transition to be able to do compound again during the session. Put your heaviest, most productive exercise first and figure this out for yourself. I just gave you an example. Heavy, isolation, even more isolation, back to a medium, and then finish with a large compound, which mashes everything up. And then by then you have your energy back because you're doing these isolation, low output exercises, and the whole thing is just like synergistic. It's great. If you learn how to, plan your workouts like that and not just, I do my isolations first and then my compounds. I do my compounds and then my isolations. There's a better way of structuring it is all I'm trying to say. So that's it for today. God bless everybody. We'll see you in the next video. So today's back routine, we started off with our typical ab circuit just to get our body temperature up, try to get into sync, try to get enthused for the coming exercises, for the coming workout. And today we're taking a different approach. In the last few sessions I've been using this particular machine. This machine is a plate loaded ab cruncher, which means that you can basically load an unlimited amount of weight. Well, not unlimited, but like more than you can handle. So today I actually brought it up to, how much was that? 80 kilos, 175 pounds on the resistance. Started off, with a 20, then a 40, then a 60, and ended up with 80 kilos. And it was great. Really, I find it hard to get a better, more solid contraction than on this machine. There's endless ways of doing abdominals. You can do them on the floor. You can do them, doing calisthenics, the hanging leg raises, which are great, the incline crunches. But this particular machine is pretty much flawless. It really just attacks the muscle and brings it into the, like I said, into the most perfect crunch, at least that I've been able to experiment. And add on top of that the plate load, which is, adding resistance. Because in my book, you should train the abs like you train any other muscle. You want to build the muscle. People who think that by developing their abdominals, they're going to have a blocky midsection. It really depends on your body type. I guess if you're short and squat and have a really thick midsection, yeah. So, but that's not my case. I could build them out, to as extreme degree and still look kind of lanky. So here we're doing a different exercise selection for our back. As we're into a cut, into a diet, dropping body fat, I'm not so rigorous on the exercise selections because the progressive overload, the trying to get better and overloading, doing more reps and more sets on a particular exercise is not the main focus, even though I do try to go as heavy and as hard as possible. But it gives a great deal of latitude as far as the exercise selection. We mix it up. Here it's more about volume. It's more about just getting in more work volume with the right intensity. So here we're bringing it up to 3 plates and really trying to focus on that hinge. Oh, this is the rack pull, by the way. It's not a stiff leg deadlift. It's not a Romanian deadlift. It's a rack pull, which means you just lift the weight and pull as hard as you can. I do a slight hyperextension at the top, which actually does work. It actually does crunch. I was really getting the mind-muscle connection with the lower lats and feeling the crunch on the lats, like on the side of my ribs. It was just like crunching. So I did 6 reps with the 4 plates. And here we're going to rep out with the 3 plates. And again, just it feels easy when you hit a top set, say with 450, 500 pounds, and you bring the weight down. It just feels so easy. Whatever weight you're going to do after that feels ridiculously light. And so I was just grooving here with the 3 plates, feeling really easy. And here the most important part, in my opinion, is the contraction. I'm actually contracting my back. I'm squeezing the lat. I'm trying to crunch and hunch down the lat onto just the side of my waist. And here we go to the low row cable. Haven't done these in a long time. The last time I did these, I was doing them isolaterally, which is just one arm at a time. But it's time to mix things up. And here, I don't lean back. This is the thing. Don't try to lean back, over-exaggerating the movement towards the back, nor do I lean all the way forward. I just let my scapula do the work. So I do Relax the scapula, let it go forward, but not the torso. It's different. So I don't lose the angle. I'm pretty much sitting upright, and I just let the scapula go all the way forward as much as possible, and then I contract as hard as I can. And in my opinion, this is one of the better exercises to build up your back, especially if you use this in conjunction with the heavy free weight power moves for the back. It seems to have a better synergy than if you're just doing cables. I don't feel development when I just pump on cables. To me, it's just like junk volume. Whereas if I do it with the free weights, like coming off the 400-pound rack pulls, this is perfect. This is like, for me, it's like just spot on. It's the right thing. It has a great fit. Here I lower the weight and really just trying to pump the back. Again, if I do this exclusively as a pump, I feel it's meaningless. It's ridiculous. It doesn't build the size and strength that I'm looking for. But in conjunction with the heavy weights done at certain parts of the routine, it really works. Now, this is the other exercise that I've been doing lately, which is the lat pulldowns, but done with these isolateral cables. In other words, you can do them one arm at a time, and I try to finish off the set doing isolateral pumps. Like, there you go. And this just really works the muscle. I mean, you feel the contraction and isolation to a much greater degree than with the traditional long bar pull down. I mean, you can do them any way you want. This is the way I'm doing them now, and it's really working. And the one arm dumbbell row. A highly effective exercise. What can I say? It's probably one of the best exercises there is to develop your back muscles. Do this enough and you'll get a gnarly ass back. Now here we're doing the heaviest dumbbell in the gym, which unfortunately is only 105 pounds, and we're getting 12 reps to each side. Now here the important thing, in my opinion, is to keep the back super straight, to have the nice curvature in your lower back, and arch your scapula, arch it like you're bringing your chest out. So this absolutely is like, I'm making this narration 2 days after the workout. My back is still sore. It is absolutely sore from the deadlifts, from the rack pulls, from the pulls and everything. And here we finished with the pull-ups, and that was it for today. God bless you all, and we'll see you in the next video.